Welcome, Thavaseelan. It's a
Thank
pleasure
you.
having you
Thank
here,
you.
and
Thank you,
congratulations
Anurag.
for the young
Thank you.
achievements.
Pleasure. Thank you.
So, what does this award mean to you?
I think it's an incredible honor. I mean, the fact that you have loads and loads of illustrious alumni out there, and then you being chosen from amongst all of them, that's something that makes you feel. It's a very humbling experience, and it also sort of kind of pushes me to do better and better and better. And I'm Ahmedabad. I mean, it's the best institute there is. So I mean, from IIM Ahmedabad, extremely humbling and grateful.
I'm good. Obviously, it's very good to have you here on campus today.
Thank you.
When was it last that you were on campus?
I was here in 2010. I mean, in 2009 when we had passed out, unfortunately in the middle of the recession, I mean, the worst year ever to pass out of. And I am I'd been placed in this firm called JP Capital, and the next year I was back here for recruitment. So 2010, 13 years have passed since I was here last. So it's very nostalgic that way, being back in campus.
What were your fondest memories from that time?
Multiple ones. I mean, I was in Dom 6, I think, growing up with all my dorm mates, pulling each other's legs, my study group, the time I've spent with them, and all the late nights, and then, of course, I mean, the classroom sessions, I mean, the case studies, and just listening to everyone else in the classroom with all those diverse perspectives. I think that's something that was extremely enjoyable, at the same time very humbling, because you really see the depth of talent that this place attracts, and the faculty, of course. I mean, there's no match, they're unparalleled. I mean, the way they went about teaching us, everything was pretty much enjoyable. So I think if you'd want me to pick, it would be these four things that I talk about. Yeah.
And once you graduated, as you mentioned, you had a brief stint in the corporate world as well, right?
Yes.
Once you went out of here, and you were with, like you mentioned, JP Capital,
Yes.
United Stock Exchange,
Correct.
eBay,
Correct.
and you're doing very well, and things are going exactly the way one would expect after IIMA. So, what changed? As in, what made you make the move to a career in public service?
I think this was something that I'd always wanted. So my uncle is also in the IAS, so he's been my primary inspiration. So this was something that was always at the back of my mind. When I was doing my engineering final year, everyone started preparing for CAT. I prepared as well, and the moment you start preparing, and then A happened, and when it comes to IIM Ahmedabad, you never say no to A. A turns you down, so. So I went ahead and started here, and my internship was with HSBC markets, and it was in the structuring desk, and I loved that too. I mean, markets is something that I equally love, and but then this was something that was a very deep calling. So I sort of felt that I had to. You have a very limited window before you can get in. I mean, beyond a point, once you cross a certain age, you can't get in. So you can always make the switch back, but then getting in, there are constraints, time constraints. So I wanted to get it done, something that I've always wanted to do. So I took the plunge.
And do you think the sort of the universe of opportunities that you have multiplied where with the choice that you've made, and then the kind of impact that you have right now? Obviously, I mean, the impact that the corporate world would have is a little bit different from what from somebody in the public service would have. But your universe, do you think that has expanded? Obviously, the variety is there, but in terms of the kind of challenge that somebody from an IIMA would expect, the level of complexity, the level of intensity. Do you think that's something that is something that you expected and you got?
I definitely think so. Yeah. I mean, the very nature of the job, given the fact that we're the most populous nation on earth, even working in the smallest of states, the number of people that you'd be impacting through your work on a daily basis is just mind blowing. I mean, so this public service, I mean, at the end of the day, is about creating the maximum good possible for the maximum number of people. So essentially, the kind of complexities, of course, I mean, work in the Northeast. I mean, Northeast for most people in the country is a black box. So until I traveled there, I think the furthest east that I traveled was Calcutta. So I had no idea what to expect. I mean, you still have several crores of people living in that part of the country. So with very little knowledge, you go there and then you start understanding. So every state in that sense is a challenge in itself. I mean, you have every state has its own peculiarities, own complexities, and working in the Northeast, especially in a place which has remnants of insurgency, a place which is limited connectivity. Of course, things have improved a lot over the past decade or so, but then there's still challenges in terms of geography, in terms of connectivity, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the insurgency remnants that's still there. Resource constraints. It is as complex as it can get. Because you're dealing with a scale that sort of the corporate world. Of course, you're still dealing in scale, but then here's human lives, and then there's scale. So I think it's a very powerful combo in that sense, and I'm far from being disappointed. In fact, I'm grateful that I made the switch, because it's something that I'm doing, something that I really always wanted to do, and something that gives me a lot of satisfaction. So yeah.
I mean, you mentioned resource constraint and connectivity and infrastructure,
Yes.
And those are some of the things that people readily understand, in a sense that those are challenges, and those are some of the challenges that a state like Nagaland would have. Pretty much most of the states in the Northeast region have that. But what, according to you, are some of the unique challenges that you face in your job, specifically in the context of the socio-economic context and developmental challenges that the state has? I mean, you also mentioned remnants of insurgency. I mean, that is not something that sort of every state faces. There are certain different variations of it in different parts of the country, but then there's a unique sort of a nature to it there.
Right.
And then there are other kinds of, for example, the way the current issues that are happening in the neighboring states. So there are many of these nuances that are there.
Okay.
So what are some of the unique challenges that you have to deal with there?
I mean, say for example, I mean, I come from Tamil Nadu, so when you're talking about Tamil Nadu, the people as a whole, you have a certain underlying thread of uniformity, right? But then when it comes to places like Nagaland, I mean, when I talk about remnants of insurgency, I mean, the ceasefire with the insurgent groups was signed in 1997, and the state has been extremely peaceful since then, barring a few isolated incidents. So it's about, I mean, you have 16 different tribes, and so the word tribe is a misnomer when it comes to the context of Nagaland. People are as modern as they are. You'd expect to find anywhere else in the country. So every tribe, I mean, barring Dimapur and Koyama districts, where you sort of the cosmopolitan in nature, every district is inhabited by a majority tribe. I mean, people from a particular tribe are in the majority. So each of them, they have their own set of customs, their own set of customary laws. So you sort of have to empathize and sort of customize your work to suit what best suit them. So I think dealing with those complexities, I mean, it's kind of nuanced, as you had mentioned, but understanding the intricacies and working accordingly has been something that's been a bit of a challenge. But then I think for me personally, the biggest challenge would be in terms of overcoming resource constraints, because things that could be taken for granted in an extremely large state with a large revenue are still could be a kind of challenge in a place like Nagaland or most parts of the Northeast, where they're not sort of they don't produce a large amount of revenue on their own. So that and figuring out solutions in spite of resource constraints, I mean, innovative ways of getting things done has been a bit of a challenge in that sense. And yeah, I think these two would be what I'd sort of put at the top when it comes to the nuanced challenges you face while working there.
And I think the reason why I asked that, because I wanted to situate your your response in this context, because what I'm about to ask you now next is it'll make sense if this context is understood really well. So the next thing that I want to ask is, how did you implement large scale interventions at zero cost, right? And that becomes even more challenging in this particular context, right? If you understand this, then you appreciate this a little bit more. So that's why I wanted to understand that.
I think it all started with COVID. I mean, we were looking at, to fill up the gaps in terms of availability of resources, we were looking at engaging with organizations, corporates who had the resources and the means to get things done. So we were looking at primarily health and education, but then once COVID started, it sort of started as an engagement with organizations providing, free oxygen concentrators, PPE kits, masks, and so on and so forth. But then that relationship sort of continued beyond COVID as well, and we were able to do quite a lot of things in health, especially, bit in education. For example, we worked with this organization called the Hans Foundation. What it is, eventually they started helping us during COVID, giving us some oxygen concentrators, the oxygen plants at the height of COVID, the second wave especially. So what it eventually turned out into is that, right now they run 9 mobile medical vans. And so I was in this district called Mon, which is in the northernmost part of Nagaland. I was a district collector. I was there for about 4.5 years. And at that point in time, what had happened was health was a major concern. I mean, people still had issues in terms of, quickly getting access to healthcare, access to quality healthcare. Of course, I mean, the government set up the community health centers, the primary health centers, sub-centers. They were all working. They were doing their best. But then there's still some gaps which had to be filled in given the remoteness of the geography. So what a place like that essentially needed is sort of, taking healthcare service delivery to their doorsteps. And this is where exactly Hans Foundation come in. I mean, this is backed by an Indian billionaire based out of the US. So they had the means and they had the intent. So what it eventually resulted in was having these 9 mobile medical vans, each with its own set of doctors, paramedical staff, lab technicians, drivers. So each of these vehicles. I mean, so in Mohan we have about 135 villages. So every month, every village would get a visit by one of these mobile medical vans, and these were equipped with testing equipments. They were equipped with medicines. So we directly took medicine to the doorsteps, and this was an extremely subsidized cost, about 80 to 90% lower than the market cost. And we were initially, we sort of wanted to make it completely free of cost, but then when everything is given free of cost, people tend to sort of take it for granted. So which is why it was priced extremely low, and people were more than happy to sort of receive these services. So running something of this sort, I think the kind of investment they made just in Mon district over the last, from 20 till about June 2022, 3 years backwards, was about 40 crores. I mean, the kind of intervention that they'd done. So this was one. There was another organization called the Selco Foundation with whom we worked. They had sort of electrified all the health units with solar electricity. I mean, that's solar energy is renewable energy is a space that they work in. So that was at zero cost to us. We just told them that this is a need, given that the past situation isn't that great, and you've had situations where when a woman is there in the health unit for delivery, but then there's no electricity. So we had to put in sustainable solutions. So they had come in and done it free of cost for us. So a lot of these organizations, we just had to reach out and tell them what we wanted, and then they'd gotten it done for us. I mean, Rural Electrification Corporation and Government of India, PSU, provided about 1.5 crore worth of medical equipments, advanced medical equipments to the district hospital. So there were a lot of partners. We just need to look for them and then sort of ask, and they're more than happy to help out in a region where it's needed the most. Yeah. So.
And in addition to this, of course, you have done a lot on your own as well in terms of many of your own initiatives, which some of them may have had partners, some of them may not. Sure. But you also won the National E-Governance Award.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And that was in 2020, 21?
21.
And 21. Then the Scotch Award. Correct. In 2021. Could you throw some light on what got you those awards, which initiatives and what were the outcomes of that?
Sure. So I'll start with the the National E-Governance Award. So it was for this for the use of information communication technology in the management of COVID-19. So now I mean when COVID hit, I mean it's something that none of us had experienced until that point in time. So what we were trying to do is figure out what can we best do within the resources that we had. I mean thankfully there were partners who were available, who were willing to help us out at this extremely nominal or zero cost. So there was this organization in Bangalore called Intelligent Technology, which they sort of work in the logistics space, and they use geofencing technology to track trucks. So they had modified it for us to help us quarantine people who were affected by COVID-19. So that was one. So we've using multiple technologies. We'd also worked with this firm called Boston Analytics, Infinite Analytics, headquartered in Boston and Mumbai. So they used a combination of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning to sort of help in rapid contact tracing. When someone's sort of affected, I mean, they used to use a SIM card and the pings and figure out who are the other people in the vicinity. So, and then we used an app by no-code platform called Clapia to manage people in quarantine centers. And then when we had a large number of people coming back from different parts of the country to our district, back to the district because everything was shut. So we had initiated doorstep delivery of vegetables, food, water, banking services to all those who need it. And by ensuring that the vegetables could be sold, we tied up with the church. So church plays a major role in Nagaland. So the farmers who were selling the produce and couldn't come out to the open to sell it because of the lockdown, they were able to supply it to us, and then we were able to further supply it to people. So their livelihoods were also saved, and simultaneously we could take it to the people. So this was a culmination of all these efforts, was what led to the National E-Governance Award. And for Scotch, so it was for financial inclusion. So what had happened was, so places like, so as you're aware, I mean, Government of India is big on DBT, direct benefit transfer. So you still have a lot of beneficiaries in remote areas who don't have bank accounts. So the only possible solution is you request the banks to open more branches, but then when it comes to rural areas, extremely remote areas, profitability becomes an issue, and they're not sort of very forthcoming when it comes to that. And even the existing branches sort of suffer from lack of staff because people are not very comfortable going to the remote areas and working. So you have these long delays in account opening. But then Government of India is not going to keep waiting for you to sort of have everybody open the bank accounts. They of course, I mean, they've been waiting for a long time to sort of give everybody an opportunity. But then it's not going to be forever. So we had to figure out a solution to solve this problem. So one was obviously asking banks for more staff, more branches, but then that was very limited success. So we have this India Post Payments Bank. So where there's a sort of doorstep banking in that sense. It's anchored by India Post. So what essentially happens is, you can. So what we'd done was we had carried out on a mission mode camps and enrollment camps in all these villages and urban wards. We first sensitized them as to what it is. It's exactly equivalent to a bank account. So you can access your money through either business correspondence or through your post office. They have the system called the Aadhaar enabled payment systems. So all transactions that you can do in a normal bank account that you have in a state bank or a ICICI or a HDFC, you could do it with your India Post Payments bank account. So that was a major hit for us. So we could open an extremely large number of accounts. We had a very large number of transactions. I mean, they even had insurance. So in terms of insurance premium collected, in terms of other enabled payment services, in terms of accounts opened, Mohun district was for a very long time number 2 in the country in all these parameters of all the 700 odd districts. And for a brief period, it was also number 1. So financial inclusion in that sense was what sort of got our team the Scotch Award.
Wow, that's impressive. And of course, I mean, there is a lot more, right? I mean, you won the governor's gold medal as well, commendation certificate as well. Right. So what was that for?
So I think, I mean, a lot of initiatives sort of rolled into one. I mean, the service, the performance, ever since I'd gotten into the service, I mean, the performance, the work that I'd done in other districts, plus, the work during COVID. alongside the work in interventions in the health sector, where we're the major drivers for that. Plus, obviously, it's also a function of the feedback that people have in terms of how well administered the district is, and so on and so forth. So it's multiple things rolled into one, which sort of led to the governor's gold medal. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, add to the long list of accolades, of course, is that I just want to share, put it out there, is that you are also the topper of the
The training,
foundation course, in the IAS batch of 2012.
Yeah, the phase
Right.
1 and phase 2 as well. Yeah.
Phase 1 and phase 2 as well. So yeah, I just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
So what are some of the you faced all of this, you've achieved all of this, but then what was some of the most formidable challenges according to you in uh, making sure that the outcomes that you wanted from any initiative,
Sure.
you got the desired results, right? So obviously the challenges in general would be specific to the context or specific to the initiative, but what stands out for you as some of the most formidable challenges that you had and that took you a long time or a lot of effort to sort of overcome?
So I mean, sustainability of these initiatives is what is essentially key, right? I mean, after you leave, move out from a district, if the initiative falls flat, it really doesn't serve the purpose. So making people own the initiative was sort of the challenge, ensuring that they actually own it up. Say, for example, all these interventions in the health sector. So we did it in such a way that we involve the people at all points in time, not just the folks from the government, the health and family welfare department, but the community at large. So we wanted them to own this up, so that the initiatives would continue for the longest time possible. So I think that was the biggest challenge, but then I think that's something that we've been able to do pretty well, thanks to the fact that, I mean, Northeast, if you look at Northeast as a whole, and especially Nagaland, the community sort of comes together when it comes to matters that affect all of them. So and the spirit is very strong. So social capital is extremely high. So I think that sort of helped and overcome the problem of sustainability. Yeah.
What is your biggest concern right now, and what are the major things that you are working on right now?
All right. So I currently hold 3 portfolios. I'm the principal director of school education. I'm also the project director of a World Bank funded project in the school education space, and I'm also the CEO of the State Health Authority. So for us, I mean, school education is I mean, the two major, the white elephants, so to say. So one is the foundational literacy and numeracy, because I mean, if the foundation isn't strong, no matter how many interventions you have at a later point in time, the kid is still not going to catch up. So I think that, alongside management of our teachers, their capacity building, the motivation, and getting them to perform in the remotest of areas. You have some of these teachers who are working for extremely long periods in the most difficult of places. They've been doing phenomenally well. So keeping them motivated and ensuring that they're delivering the classroom transactions in a superior manner by building the capacity. I think that's the dual challenge that we're sort of working on at this point in time. I mean, others would be bridging the gap between what's needed and what's currently there, both in terms of physical and digital infrastructure. So government schools, obviously, given the limited resource envelope that the government has, there's something more that you can do. So that's something that we're working on. The other would be a constant flux in terms of assessment, pedagogical and curriculum reforms. You'll have to sort of keep updating to the tune of where the world's heading. Then you have inclusive education. How do you take care of kids who are differently able and provide them the same platform that a kid who's normal sort of gets? And then vocational education, because I mean, Nagaland, if you look at Nagaland, I mean, unemployment is a major issue. So from you'll have to sort of help them develop an entrepreneurial bent of mind, make them move from being job takers to job seekers. So I think those are our biggest challenges at this point in time. And then in the health space, as the CEO of the State Health Authority, we have a CM health insurance scheme. So sort of ironing out issues and its implementation. It's just been about 6 months since it's launched. So that's a bit of a challenge. So that's something that we're working on at this time. Yeah.
And so all of this sounds like these are all governance and management issues rolled into one.
Absolutely.
And and of course that's why it's relevant for anybody listening to this.
Yeah.
So what would your advice be to people who want to create meaningful change, right, and
Sure.
have a meaningful impact
Sure.
in a challenging environment?
Sure. I mean, you'll have to sort of be patient. You'll have to be resilient, because I think many times it can become very frustrating, and it's important that you keep at it. You'll ultimately, I mean, most things in life, it just boils down to your attitude. I mean, if you can adopt the problem solver's mindset, you will keep encountering problems. But then, if you keep focusing on the process and keep trying to move things around a bit, the results will automatically follow. So it's just about taking complete charge of what you're trying to do, and then being patient and being resilient. I think that's what my advice would be.
And so, what would be your advice to students looking to go down the same path?
All right.
Particularly for students from a management background, of
Sure.
course, because the examples, while I mean from IIMA, people go on to all various different sorts of walks of
Sure.
life and
Sure.
different kinds of careers, and they all do exceptionally well in all sorts of careers. But public service is one which we've always had people joining public service from IIMA, and that sort of has had a enduring
Sure.
pull.
Sure.
But the numbers were always smaller, as you would expect,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
But then there are people considering it. There are a larger number of people considering it. But then how do you help them make that decision, right? What would you tell them? I mean, putting yourself in their shoes, or
Sure.
they wanting to be in your shoes.
Sure. I mean, public service at the end of the day is a calling. I guess it's if there's something that doing the maximum good for the maximum number of people, if that's something that excites you, this is it. I mean, there's no job that's even remotely comparable in terms of the scale at which you'd be working. So the results, the dividends are not going to be in monetary terms, but in terms of blessings, because every single thing that you do or you don't do is going to affect millions of people on a daily basis. I think if that doesn't excite you, then perhaps public service is not for you. But then if that's something that you like, and something that'll make you happy, then yes, public service is the way to go. There's nothing that would be comparable in terms of the scale at which you can operate.
So, what do you look at achieving? What are your goals, as in terms of the impact that you want to have?
Sure.
You've won a lot of accolades. Obviously, people have appreciated your work, but is there something that you want to accomplish, as in terms of having an impact, in terms of making a difference? Are there some kinds of things that you're looking at, some kinds of metrics, some kinds of how do I articulate it? Some sort of a sign saying that this is something that I have done. This is something that gives me the maximum amount of satisfaction.
Sure.
Have you thought about it in terms of what would you like to have done, like to have
Sure.
seen being done, people benefiting from?
Sure.
So many of the awards that you won, obviously, are a expression of affirmation that what you've done are really, really impressive. But what do you feel yourself personally?
I mean, this would be sort of specific to the role I hold at that particular point in time, because I mean, when I was a district collector, the kind of metrics that I would look at would be very different from the kind of metrics that I'm looking at right now. But then amongst all this, if there's a common thread, it would be ensuring that the initiatives that you put in place are sort of sustainable, survive beyond you. I think that would be it. That would be the main metric that I'd look at, and how much people could we impact. I mean, the larger the number of people that you can impact, the better it would be. So I think that would be the single biggest metric: impact. How many people you sort of
So
impact.
I meant more in terms of, for example, let's say poverty reduction,
Sure.
or access to healthcare, or for example equity. So
Sure.
those are some overarching themes which
Great.
in many ways you do a lot of stuff, but then eventually they have a bearing on this, right? So would you, for example, be happy with shaving off half a percentage point or 1 percentage point in terms of the people below the poverty line, right? So some sort of a larger goal in a sense.
Sure. I think in that case it would be improving access to education, improving access to healthcare, and improving, ensuring that people have more access to multiple livelihoods. I think these three would be the overarching sort of things that I want to look at and want to achieve over my career. Yeah, health, education, livelihoods.
Yeah. So that's the professional side of you, right? Do you have any personal aspirations? What are you looking forward to? How do you unwind, for example? What do you do for fun? What do you want to do in your personal life?
I love traveling. I love reading and catching up with friends. So that's pretty much the. I mean, you don't get a lot of free time given the fact that the sort of juggling multiple responsibilities. But then what I sort of eventually want to also work on is yeah, so as part of my Aspen Fellowship, there's a project that I'm sort of working on, which is it's sort of both professional as well as personal. But then that's something that's extremely close to my heart because there's something that you see over and over in terms of people. So when I was district collector, we've had multiple instances when people used to come up to you and then ask you for help for healthcare. You had a situation where the family is not able to. Afford treatment in a private hospital. They could only go to the government hospitals, but then you may or may not have the facility for treating that particular ailment in a government hospital. So what I'm sort of working on is trying to build a community insurance model. Obviously, there are micro insurance models that are already there, but then what I'm trying to do is come up with a product where the whole village or the whole community sort of comes together and puts up premium and the whole community is sort of able to access healthcare equitably. So that's something that I'm working on and it's something extremely close to my heart. It's still early days, but that's something if that's something that could successfully be rolled out, I think my life's purpose will be done.
Yeah, I mean, your personal goal sounds a lot like a public service act as well. I
Because
mean,
it's
so
sort of
you're
very intertwined that way.
yeah,
It would be
yeah.
really difficult to.
No, that's really heartening to hear because it's like, you're so, entrenched in, that your personal goals are no different from social service, right? Or the public good that you want to bring to people's life, and that's really, really, heartening to hear. And well, it was a pleasure talking to you,
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
Thavaseelan. It's it's really good that you could come over and we could have this chat. And you know, all power to you and to make sure that firstly you have much larger impact and all the things that you mentioned. Hopefully, all of that comes true.
Thank you.
And best wishes and
Thank you
congratulations
so
again.
much. Thank you so much.